Okay, so we're just going to jump right into our next lab, which is 0402. Now this is working with permissions and kind of looking at this lab. What we have at the beginning are a bunch of requirements. And so on this page, we've got 15 requirements about what different roles can do. Basically these are business requirements typically come from like sitting in meetings and gathering information and interviewing stakeholders, and from that you can make a list of requirements. And so that's what we have at the beginning here, is a list of requirements, and then from there you can go to making a table. Now this is presumably kind of a draft of what different roles and the permissions that the different roles have. And so based on these requirements, we're going to make changes to this and just go through all of our requirements line by line and make sure that everything's kind of lining up. And so this will help us, this is just kind of a step in the process to taking something from paper, like what are the business requirements on paper, and to how we can start implementing them in our code. And so you can kind of take this written requirement and put it in a table format where you can assign a different permission to different groups, and that'll help us eventually make the next step, which is, okay, then let's say, okay, on these different routes, what permission do they need in order to access a certain route? And so again, this is kind of drafted already, but again, this is subject to change based on just a review of this information. Then we're going to go ahead and add roles to a database. And so just like we did in our walkthrough, we'll have a role collection that we'll add, and then each user will have an array of roles. And then we'll go about actually implementing our permissions through middleware on all of our different routes. And so that's kind of the process for today. And we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to get my dog walker app up because that was the walkthrough that we did. Okay, so these are the different roles, and this was set up in a requirement already. Developer, business analyst, quality analyst, product manager, technical manager. So 2 analysts, 2 manager types, and a developer. So 5 roles. Anonymous users can register for an account, but they do not receive a role initially. And let's go ahead and open up the issue tracker as well. And I think that when we look at the register route, so here's our register route. You're posting the register. We went ahead and set the role to null. So by default, the role is null. So we've kind of already coded that in. That's number 2. So number 1, these are the roles. Number 2, we've already coded that in. Technical managers can edit any user. So what you do here is you go down, can edit user, and you see technical manager, right? So that's literally all we're going to do. We're going to say, okay, so requirement number 3, that we're checking the box right here. And maybe we can break that one up and can assign roles just to have the permission on a separate row. So can edit user, and maybe what I'll do here is maybe just highlighted in green to say that we've addressed that. We've addressed that. Technical managers can edit any user. Well, we put that in our chart. Whoops, let's do background color. Technical managers can edit any user. Can edit user. Next, technical managers can assign roles to users. So that was this other one that we put. This is technical manager can assign roles. So highlight that. So just going through the process. All data is viewable by any role. So you have to have a role and you can view data. So we have this permission here, can view data, and all 5 of our roles can view data. And so that is step number 5. Let's see, any role can create a bug. So these are bugs, can create bug. And so here we can say all of our roles can create a bug. So let's highlight that fella. Bugs are unclassified initially. I would say that goes back into code. And if I look at a bug and I say, okay, we've got a new bug, and it looks like so here's our posting a new bug. Classification of unclassified. So we handled that in code, that when we create a new bug, it is unclassified initially. So we're good there. And bugs are assigned to the author initially. Now, an assigned to property, I don't know that we have that. Created by. Now, this is interesting because we say is logged in. So we can actually tell who's logged in, because you have to be logged in at this point. And we've got created by. Let's boot up our database and just take a glance at the assigned to. And again, this is where your ERD would help if we had an updated database diagram, because we actually never took a minute to step back and recreate that or update it, I would say. MongoDB. Multi-factor, let's do that later. And let's change this up to be our issue tracker database. And so back to the requirement, it says assigned to. So presumably bugs can be assigned to a user, and what I'm looking for is assigned to. So here's assigned to object, user ID, full name, and role. And so this is a property with a subdocument, user ID, full name, and role. So we'll go ahead and code that in. So if existing bug, the bug already exists. Otherwise, let's make a assigned to object that has the user ID. Now, do we have we have a is logged in, and therefore we've got rec.auth, and rec.auth has a payload in it that has a user ID. So you have an underscore ID in rec.auth. So we should be able to look up the user. Const user equals await db module get user by ID, and we're going to send in rec.auth._ID. And this is signed to will be the user ID, the full name, and the role of our user. Underscore ID, colon, user dot underscore ID, comma, full name, colon, user dot full name, comma, and role, user dot now this will be interesting, you know, if that's an array versus a singular role right now. Right now all of our roles are singular, but you know, we might need to put them in an array, and then that might need to refactor this. So this is the assigned to object. This is the assigned to object, and then we can make an assigned to property equal to the assigned to object. So go ahead and add that in. And let's go ahead and make a new bug. We'll log in a user. We'll make a new bug and make sure that that new bug has our nested document in there to test that out. Clear the screen. npm run start dev. Okay, we're booted up on 5003, which is good. And let's see if we can log in a user. I'm going to close all my dog walker stuff. We're no longer working on that. Save it all. Okay. Here's my bug tracker users. John Doe 2. Okay. Grant, are you able to log in a user here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm logged in as John Doe 2. And now if I go ahead and create a new bug, and user is just complaining for no good reason. Everything is broke. Steps to reproduce. Now, again, I'm just gonna say that when it comes time to demonstrating your app, you want to put you want to put realistic data into your database. It's what I'm just throwing some dummy data in there, but it's always good to have realistic data so that when you demonstrate your app that it looks good. Okay, but I'm just new bug is added with a bug ID. So if I go to list all my bugs, and Now in my list, I'm pretty sure my list has set, let me go back to my list. Actually, you know what? When I created a bug, let me just get a bug by ID. Find bug by ID. Because my list has a, okay, so it did not, John Doe doesn't have a role. Which for now is fine. Presumably in a little bit that's not going to work because we did just say that you have to have a role to create a bug, but we haven't implemented that permission yet. But this is working, right? That's what I wanted to see. And to finish my statement just from a second ago, there is a limit of just showing 5 bugs right now. That's why I'm not seeing that bug. So you could go in here and change the limit to 100 and you'd see the bug. But finding the bug by the ID also worked. One thing to keep an eye on is right now our roles are singular. When we change our roles to arrays, I don't know that this code is going to work where you just say, hey, the role is a user role. Unless that user.role returns a whole array, then that would work. But maybe not. So I'm kind of skeptical and keep an eye on that. Back to the requirements. Bugs are assigned to the author initially. We now have done that. Any user can edit a bug that they are the author of. So here's can create bug. Here's can edit any bug. Can close any bug. Can classify any bug. Can reassign any bug. But any user can edit a bug that they are the author of. So what might you call that? Can edit created bug. Maybe there's a better name for that. Go back to here. Let me go back to my bugs and just kind of look through my properties. We have a bug author. And kind of go down here. We need to make sure this is the assigned to, but our current code base does not set a bug author. So we've refactored this so many times. It's like you add these properties, you change it. So, well, we actually have all of this data already in an array, bug author. So let's go back to our code base. And I see created by. Well, created by is essentially our bug author. So let's change created by back to bug author. And this is kind of the same object, assigned to object. So our bug author is that, assigned to is also that. And if I find the bug by the ID, you know, I'm not going to keep making the same bug. Let me delete this bug. Classify, assign, well, there's close. Okay, I'll delete it manually. So let me go back into here. when this is finally refactored in its final stage, you probably just want to kind of start the data fresh and delete a lot of the old stuff and just put in all the data, enter in all the dummy data, in its final form. User is just complaining for no reason. Let's delete that one. Okay, and so when we recreate it, we should be able to create a new bug. Our user should still be logged in. User is still okay, so if I find this bug by this new ID, we now have a bug author and assigned to the same thing. So that's cool. Back to the requirements. Can edit. Created any, can created own, can edit self-created, can create it, can edit my bugs, can edit my bug. Maybe that's a better name, can edit my bug. And back to here, any user can edit a bug that they are the author of. Again, that just came back to why I wanted to say, hey, who created it? Who was the author? Which is why we added that property back to bug author. So we know if you're the bug author, then you can edit it. And any user can edit the bug they are the author of. So any user doesn't really matter what role they have. Now again, you have to be a member of a role to create a bug, right? So there is no example of a user who has a null role being able to create a bug. Therefore, this will work. Any user can edit a bug that they are the author of. Check. Bugs can also be edited by the user they are assigned to. Okay, so can edit maybe can edit if assigned to. Bugs can also be edited by the user that they are assigned to. So now who can bugs be assigned to? So that's the question. Can bugs be assigned to any of these? But let's just, for now, it says any user by the user they are assigned to. So if assigned to a dev, they can edit it. If assigned to a QA, they can edit it. BA, PM, TM. All these roles can edit it if they're assigned to the bug. Bugs can be reassigned by the user they are assigned to. So you pass it to me, then I can pass it to someone else. It can be reassigned by the user they are assigned to. So let's see. Can reassign any bug. Not any bug. Can reassign if assigned to. Okay. Business analyst can edit any bug. So we have can edit any bug, business analyst, right there. Business analysts and technical managers can reassign any bug. Can reassign any bug, BA, and technical managers. So you can kind of see we've drafted some of this already. So that's can edit any bug right here, and can reassign any bug right here. Business analyst can classify any bug, BA right here, can classify any bug. Business analyst can close any bug, business analyst. Any user with a role can add comments to a bug. Can add comments. Any user with a role can add comments. Quality analyst can add, edit, execute, and delete test case. And so can add test case, can edit test case, can execute test case, and can delete test case. All four of those permissions fall under quality analysts. And so that comes in down here. Okay, so you can kind of see this process of like taking it from like verbal into this chart. And that's a step in the process to helping us get this into code. So it's just a a stepping process. You take these different steps to get it into code, and it helps you take one step at a time. This process. Okay, so finally we have walked through these line by line. Grant, do you have any questions, or do you kind of see the making sense so far?
Yeah, I think I follow it so far.
Okay, good deal. All right. So now we take this into, again, taking another step closer to the code. So given the information on the previous pages, make a table of which permission is required to access a route. So, when it comes to registering a new user, it said, hey, anonymous users. So you really don't need, now I kind of did a strike through on this, and I'm not sure how to take that out, but there's no permissions needed. So you can kind of strike that off and say, okay, we don't really, okay. Permission NA. Kind of the same deal with the login. You don't really need any permissions to log in. Oops. Okay, to get a list of the users, so we said can view data. And right now, pretty much anybody can view data. So the permission here, when we list our users, is can view data. Is there anything else? Can edit user, can assign roles. Got to be a technical manager to assign roles. So the workflow is like this. A user registers, they don't have a role at first, and so they can't do anything. They have to wait for a technical manager to assign them a role, and then they can start doing things in the system. And so this is not necessarily like an app that would be public on the internet, more than likely, because a lot of times when user registers for an account, then you can immediately do something. You typically don't have to wait to be assigned a role. You know, maybe this is more of an intranet application for a business. Okay, so here we're going to put a permission of can view data. Okay, so this is API user me. Remember, that's the edit yourself, right? This is the route to edit yourself. And so any user that is assigned a role you know, maybe what we want to do here maybe is at least verify the user is logged in, which is not necessarily anything that's on this lab. I think that the point is that should already be there. So we might not need to do that. Let's look at that real quick. If I go to user / me, it's already required that the user is logged in. So that's not really a permission thing. So I'll just continue down the not applicable because it's not an individual permission. We're just making sure they're logged in. Okay, so to get a user by the ID. Now we said, you know, this is getting your own information. This is getting other users' information. And so when it comes to users, you can view data as long as you're in any role. So view other users, all you have to do is be assigned a role and you can view other users' information. And so can view data is fine. On the put, right? So this is the getting the user by ID. This is the editing a user by the ID, right? That's the put. API users me. Let's go back here, and again, I think it should be is logged in. So if I go down to the put. Again, we are making sure the user is logged in, but there's no specific permissions here. This is editing a user. So there is a role here, can edit user. We can see only technical managers can do that. So can edit user at that route. Delete a user, can edit user. Again, so only technical managers can delete a user. There was nothing more specific. You know, you could make a role called can delete user, or you could bundle that into can edit user. So again, you got to be a technical manager there. So that's on the delete. Listing the bugs can view the data. Kind of getting into this, can get a bug by the ID can view the data. Can create bug, so bug new, so there's a permission called can create bug. Let's see. This is can edit a bug, right? So this is a put on the bug ID. Is there can edit bug? Can edit any bug? So this one right here, can edit any bug. Or can edit my bug, or can edit if assigned to. Those are three potential ways to edit a bug. So if I go back down, let's see, can edit any bug, can edit, what do we call them? Can edit if assigned to, can edit if assigned to, or can edit my bug. Okay, this one might be interesting because there's so many different ways that there's a potential. So what I'm thinking about at the moment is what happens if here this is true, you can edit any bug, but what if you're not assigned it, or what if it's not your bug? So what if this is true, and then these are both false, or one of these is false? If that blocks you access to the route, that would be a problem. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that as we get to that. Classify, can classify any bug. So we've got, that's pretty simple. Business analyst can classify any bug. Assign, can assign any bug. Can reassign, because again, it is assigned by default. So can reassign any bug right here. It is assigned by default, so it is a reassigning. Can close any bug. Let's see, can view data, we're listing bug comments. Can view data on a comment ID. Can add comments. Let's see. Can view data if we are listing the test cases, if we're listing a test by ID. Can add a test case and can edit a test case. Can delete a test case. Okay, so that fills in that chart. It's going to help us take it to code. Now, add roles to the database. I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to drag this over here. So looking at here, we need to create this collection just like we did last time, and give our users some roles. Now, it should work even if you have a singular role. Like if I come in here and I just change this to developer, the way that middleware is coded is it'll work if it's a string role or if it's an array. It should work either way. So it's just something to keep in mind. That should work. But let's go ahead on issue tracker. Let's click on issue tracker and let's create a collection. Everything is plural here. So let's create a collection called roles. And just to go back to the dog walker app, let's look at it here. I'm pretty sure it was plural anyways. There's roles right there, yeah. So I just wanted to make sure. It was plural before, which it was. So we're back in here. Here's our roles. And let's add our first role. Insert document. We have an ID. Name. Developer. Permissions is our object. So now we can kind of go back to our permissions chart for developer and say, okay, can do this, can do this, can do this, can do this, can do this. so on and so forth, right? So we can go right down this chart and add the different permissions. So that's where I'm pulling this from. And these are all Boolean. Can edit if assigned to, can reassign if assigned to. Can add comments. Okay, so if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Click on Insert. And there we have our first one. Next up, Quality Analyst. Of name, Quality Analyst. Permissions. Can view data. Let's see. Can reassign if assigned to. Oop, I missed the value of true right here. Can add comments. It's also the quality analyst that can do everything with test cases. So there's 4 more permissions all dealing with test cases. Can add test case. Can edit test case. We got rid of the execute test case, so let's just say can delete test case. Okay, so let me count them again. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All true, all Boolean. Next. Next up, business. Can view data. Can create a bug. Get into a little bit of a flow here. Can't reassign any bug. Can't edit my bug. Okay, counting these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All booleans inside of a permissions object. 2 more to go. Product manager. product manager 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All booleans. Last but not least, technical manager. Given an opportunity on an interview to get into this much technical detail about, you know, login systems and permissions, you know, showing them the code that you wrote and the database model, and you know, this is why this project is a good example on an interview. If you're given the opportunity to get into these details, you know, this is not a trivial amount of work. This is a well thought out, you know, well scoped application. If that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Can edit. Now we're going to call this can edit any user. Can edit any user. Let's call this can edit any user. It's a little more clear. Can edit any user. Alright, can assign roles. Your typing speed might increase by the end of this class. Can reassign any bug. Because you are typing a lot. All right, counting the technical manager roles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Permissions, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All Boolean inside of an object. They all got names. There are our 5 roles with their permissions. Go ahead and pause, and Grant, I'm assuming you're working your way through? Okay. So next up we get to write some code and bring in a little bit of what we did in the dog walker app, which is this. When the user registers, we create this token, and we want to put some permissions in the token, and so you get this user, and we got to do something like this. Let's go ahead and We did write a database function. Called find role by name. We passed in a role name. Hitting the roles, find one. Document with a name, $EQ, role name. Then you export that. You good there, Grant?
Yes.
Now back in here, we pass in a user. I think I mistakenly hit a database call unnecessarily. So let's go ahead and look up the roles. Await. Now we need to bring in a function called fetch roles, and that's on this package that we already kind of brought in here. So let's bring in fetch roles, and let's bring in merge permissions. So these are two functions that belong to this express auth package that we've already started to use. Scroll down, await, fetch roles, pass in the user object, and when you're the second argument, role db module, find role by name, sending in the role. That makes this function asynchronous, so we need to async that. And then we need to find issue auth token every time we call this. And we need to put the await in front of that. Await. Okay, so await. Just scroll through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Just to do a little debug user and so I'm just going to log in my user, and right now I don't have any roles in the array, but these are not arrays right now, right? So this is just a string. So I'm going to log in my user and see, yes, it does work with string, and it returned an empty array because my fella doesn't have anything. My John Doe does not have a role, is what I mean by that statement. So let's go into users. I believe it's John Doe 2. And let's edit him to have a string and developer. Okay, so John Doe 2 now has a developer role. Let's go ahead and log him back in and peek. Okay, so we got an array with a document in it, which is our role of developer. And that is what we wanted, right? Because we're finding a role by the name, sending in the user. John Doe has one role, so it did work with our string. That was the main thing I wanted to test. Okay, const permissions equals merge permissions user and the roles. And now let's debug user. This is a permissions object. So, this fetch roles returns an array of documents. This merge permissions returns an object with merge permissions. Ultimately, I should see these permissions coming back. I go ahead and log in my user again. And there's my one document with his permissions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Going back to my requirements, my developers have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 check marks. And let's go ahead and refactor our user to be an array. So let's change that to an array of strings. String 0 is developer, and string 1 QA. Document updated. Log in my user. Welcome back, John Doe. Go to the source code, and now we have one document. Got all of our permissions there. It is an array. Let's see, wait, marriage permissions, payload.permissions, okay. Now we update the payload. Payload.permissions equals permissions. Okay, so because our QA can add a test case, and John Doe is a QA, let's log John Doe in, and now we've got our auth token, and our auth token should have permissions in it. Let's log in a user. Let's just go down to our test cases. So Bugs have test cases on them. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but listing the test cases, closing the bug. Let's see, bug, classify, comments, list the test cases. Oh, there they are, okay. New test case. Yes is logged in. Let's add let's go back. I'm going to go back to the npm JS, search for Merlin 4, express auth, and has permission is the role that we want to bring in. So has permission. And new test case, comma, has permission can add test case. Okay, so John Doe has that permission, can add test case right there. And so John Doe is logged in. And log in John Doe. So John Doe's logged in. And let's create a new test case. New bug test case. So presumably that bug is still a valid bug. Let's just put a new test name, v1 passed is false. I'm going to copy that bug ID and hit send. A new test case added. And let's get bug test case. Let's list all of our bug test cases. There it is. So John Doe created that, which is correct. Now let's log in a different user and verify that, you know, they can't create because they're not in the right role. So John Doe is a QA. Let's find a different user. And we might just need to create a new user again. These users were created before we were hashing our passwords. So again, I think it's important as we refactor this to realize that, you know, all this old data, I would wipe it out and start almost clean when it comes time to actually finalize this. So let's just create a new user. We got let's create a new user and users, add user. Now their roles are null by default. I think his middle initial is E. Okay, so D.E. Gegelman at rankin.edu. Doug Gegelman added. If I go back to my users, I should see D.E. Gegelman with a hashed password, Doug Gegelman, given name, role is null. So let's just change his role to a string. Which is developer. Okay, let's log Doug Gegelman in. Password 12345. D.E. Gegelman at rankin.edu. Copy, login user. Password 12345. Welcome back, Doug Gegelman. Okay, and new bug test case. I'll call that 30. You do not have the permission can add test case. Voila. Very cool. So the lab becomes pretty straightforward. I know there's a couple things that we got to pay close attention to, but as we go through this, we just demonstrated the permissions and how they're working. And we can have an array of roles or a string role, and all that's working. Now we just got to lock down the routes. Which you can go through here, and it says, okay, log in the user, update the code to add permissions to the auth payload. We did that. On both the login and the register. How do we do that? Well, you just wrote the function, you called the function that that function's being called here. Issue auth token. And so we did both those things. Do not show passwords. Only users with what permission can access this route. So list all users is can view data. And so this is almost can view data. And so let's go to API user list and add that permission. User list has permission can view data. Now, because we logged in Doug Gegelman, so that's what's in our cookie, that's within our token. If we go to list all bugs, what happened? Oh. I gotta bring in has permission here. That's not the right, that put that in there for me, that's right. This is not correct. This is has permission. There we go. Okay, so we had to bring that in on my user.js. But Doug was still logged in on the client-side cookie, so we were still good to go there. So Doug's logged in. Of course, if I clear that out, and I hit that, it says you are not logged in. So if we go back to login Doug, Doug can list all bugs. Okay, all logged in users can access the me route. So we already looked at that. If we go back to the me route, is logged in was something we already did. Check that off the bucket. Let's see. Only users with permission. So this is updating a user by the ID, or this is reading a user by the ID. Get user by ID. Get user by ID can view data. Just like here. And I would go back here. Now this put edit, this one was the tricky one. Because those this is kind of what we drafted. Can edit any bug, can edit if assigned to, can access this route. Update self route. Okay, this is the admin. So has permission 1. Now let's go back to the docs here. They talk about this in here. Has permission. Has permission view here. Allow users with either this or that permission to access this route. This is exactly what we need. So has permission, you can comma separate and put all 3 in there. So perfect. This is exactly what we need. So you're just going to put all 3 inside of one call. Has permission. This, that, or the other. Can edit any bug. Comma, another string, comma, another string. Can edit if assigned to. Hey. All right. Let's see. What's the next one? Can't edit my bug. I'm also curious. Just because you have this and you can access the route, we're going to have to write some logic to make sure that these 2 things match, right? If your assigned to ID matches the user ID that's logged in kind of thing. Just because you can access the route doesn't also mean that these things are true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So some additional logic is going to have to be written here to see that the properties match. Because this is the user ID that's passed in, and can edit any bug. Well, yeah, you're going to have to be logged in, and you can already edit any. Let's see. You're going to have one of those 3 but
Mr. G,
yeah.
we wrote that update self route just above this one. Would that be where the can edit my bug goes?
Well, updating self is updating, not updating a bug, but that's updating
Oh,
like
yeah,
your account info.
that's right. Yes.
Yep. So like your username, your password, your first name, last name, etc. Update the joy schema to allow the role to be a string or an array of strings. Update user schema. Role is a string. Let's check that out. We need to say the role can be a string or an array of strings, which is, see the API reference. Joy.array. Okay, joy array dot items, and that those are the valid items. Now I got to figure out how to do. It's either like that's easy. That's an array of strings, or a string. You know what I mean? So let's kind of go into there. Joy.string. Or joy array items. Now this looks interesting. Alternative joy types for a separate argument as alternative schema. So maybe something like joy.alternatives.try. So role joy dot alternatives dot try, comma, so that comma comes in there. So this is our first schema. We're trying this schema, or that's when we're going to bring in the array. just trying this. I have no idea if it's going to work. With joy.array dot we just need to say joy.array.items.valid. That's what we want for the second one. And I gotta finish my try. I think we need one more parenthesis. Actually, literally copy and paste that line into the valid. So now this will accept a single string or an array with those valid objects. Joy.array items. Looks good, whether it works or not. So this is all going back to this one, updating a user, and admin update. Wait a minute, can't edit any bug. Yeah, I think. Wait a minute. This is updating the user ID. I think I got this on the wrong place. I think that maybe that's what you were alluding to a little bit there, because what I was looking to do, this is can't edit any bug. Wait a minute, why? We're updating a user. This is in the wrong place. This is a bug ID, not user ID. Put my user ID, can't edit any user. This right here, put on my user ID, I did that wrong. So put on my user ID, as I have highlighted here, is can edit user. That's my bad. Can edit user. That's probably part of your confusion,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
because I did that wrong. Okay.
And I think we made that can edit any user in our database.
You're right. Good catch. Oh, what group had that? Can edit any user. Can edit any user on TM. Can edit any user. Bingo. Can edit any user. Okay. Answered that ping. So now, where did we leave off? You know, these instant messengers are not good for focused attention. It's divided attention. Okay. So where we left off was kind of going down through here. Can view data, can edit any user, we said. And we did update the Joy schema. Now let's test that, right? So can edit any user was a technical manager. I don't have any technical managers, so I need to create a new user and make them a technical manager. Grant, spell your last name for me.
Descher.
Descher, that's right. Scher. You're going to be my technical manager. GDESCHER at siderankin.org. You got your middle initial in there?
It's Grant underscore.
G underscore Descher? Okay, cool. Let's create you. Let's make you a technical manager. Okay, now that we changed your role, we have to relog you in to recreate your cookie. So that's G underscore Descher. Let's go to login user. Okay. And what you have permission to do is update a user by their ID. So let's find another user, like our last user. Let's maybe list all of our users. And here's a user ID. And this is his given name of Doug. So let's update a user by ID. Admin update user by ID. And let's change the given name to okay, so it accepted a single string. And let's find a user by ID. Okay, we got Douglas. It butchered the full name, so I need to go back to that route and change the full name as well. When you change the given name, it should also change the full name. So here, given name, Oh, we also, so here's the situation right here where I didn't update the full name. So I need to say, if you only have the given name, update the update user data dot full name equal to given name plus a space plus found user dot family name. So it's like, hey, update the new first name with the old last name. Right, so that was a flaw in my logic. And if you only do the family name, then let's say update user data dot update user data dot full name equals found user given name plus the new family name. I'm sure there's a more condensed syntax for all of this that I'm not doing, but okay. So you had permission to update a user because you were a technical manager. However, if I log in, a different user who's not a technical manager, and I go to admin update user by name to can't edit any user. Douglas cannot edit any user because he's not a technical manager. So I was just looking for the correct thing there. Now let's fix the other bug. G_DESCHER at insiderankin.org. And let's just see if I admin update. Let's just see if I run that again. Our user is updated. If I go to list all users, yeah, I need to let's update the last name because I didn't change. It was still the same given name, so it wasn't running that. That's the code that we wrote. Let's change it back to Doug. List all users. Now it's all straight Dougs. And if I change to last, and list all users. There's one more thing to test. Now we got Douglas. Still not getting my full name. Found users, what we're getting out of the database. Oh, wait a minute. They're saying, yeah, update the given name equal to the given name. Set the full name. The given name. It's a bug to fight, but I'm not pushed for time right now, so I would put a pin in that one. Come back to that. Troubleshoot that. What I wanted to do is put the role. So if here's my role. And let's say now how to send an array of strings from Postman is a whole nother ball of wax. Because it comes across a string just by doing this. So then you think, well, developer, comma. But there's all sorts of reasons why that's not going to work. Right. Just Googled it, and let's see if this works. Role sub 0 is developer, and role sub 1 is quality analyst. Sends in two things as role. Let me see if that's how you do it. It's just more of a function of I don't know how to get Postman to do it. And if I do, hey, there you go, developer and quality analyst. Ha ha ha. I did it. And let's see if I leave a T off. So our validation is working. There you go. That's cool. All right, now we know how to do that. So Postman can do that. If I go again to find all my users, list all users, there's Doug. Again, the one bug to kind of revisit is the full name, but bingo, we are cooking. And moving on to the next requirement. Okay, delete a user by their ID. Delete their user by their ID. Can edit user, we said. So let's go down here. Cool. Cool. Delete has permission. Can edit user. All right, Grant, I think, what do you think? You want to take over, start here, and kind of revisit?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay. So I'm going to pause the recording here and let you kind of take over. If you have questions, ping me, but we will resume when we're kind of finished. Of course, and we'll go through your solution. Okay, so we have resumed the recording, and it's Grant and I back, and I got Grant's screen pulled up, and on the recording we're on step 6, updating the bugs API. And so Grant, what do I fill in the blank here with?
That should be can view data.
Can view data. So let me see if I update this on my end. Do you actually see the document updating live? Yep, there it is.
Yep.
Okay, and then you want to go ahead and show us where that's at on your, so bug list on line 64, and I'm gonna follow along because I'm keeping mine up to date as well. So you brought in has permission up at the top
Yes.
on your bugs.
And that was all that was required for this one.
Okay, very cool. So then back to the lab, the next requirement.
Similar is it's also just can view data.
Can view data. All right, and your code there, the next route, it also has permission. And that's getting a bug by ID. Next requirement.
Yes. This one is can create bug.
And to the code. Can create bug. All right, next one.
So this was the three different permissions,
Uh-huh.
which was editing any bug, edit assigned to, and
So this second
edit.
one here is can edit any bug.
Yes.
And can edit bugs. What do we call this one? Can edit if assigned
Can
to.
edit if assigned to. And then can edit my bug.
And so this first one, only users with permission blank can access the route. Those are basically the three permissions.
That's how I interpreted it, yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to delete that requirement there. And how did you implement that one?
So this one you have to put all three permissions within has permission and separated by commas. And then I added on line 199 this large if statement. And it pretty much put all of my existing logic within here in order to prevent, say, someone who can edit my bug from being able to edit any bug. This line on 199 says that the bug author ID has to match the ID of the current user, or the assigned to ID has to match that user ID who's logged in, or they have to have the permissions that they can't edit any bugs. So this prevents, say, any, I think, like a developer can edit my bug, but they can't edit any bug, and this prevents them from continuing on.
Okay, rec.auth. I'm kind of typing a little bit. Now that is a new line of code, so you had to wrap all your logic. And where does that if statement end?
That if statement ends down on 222, and then I have an else statement with just an error message if they don't have permission.
Okay, so it ends.
Right here is the closing bracket for that.
Yep. Else, you send back 403,
Yes.
which means
Forbidden.
forbidden, right? You don't have credentials. Wait a sec, I put that in the wrong spot. 'Cause I don't think mine. So here we await if res status bug updated, else bug not updated. There's your curly. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Didn't open my curlies. There we go. Yeah. Alright, I'm just author dot underscore ID. I'm on now. I know what it's like to be you.
Yeah.
Trying to type as fast as I can and understand what you're doing. What's up?
They're pretty much done with everything,
Cool.
caught up.
Cool.
With it being a holiday weekend, what's
Yeah.
your policy on
You're good.
letting them go early?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Alright.
Come have a good holiday.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know how long ago I didn't resume my recording, so I need to sign this off again. All that we did is add these final permissions. I went ahead and updated the document with what permissions we added to the routes. And so I don't think I missed that much, but we went ahead and added each one of these permissions using the has permission middleware to each route as demonstrated in here. And then what I'm going to do next is open up the hands-on test. Your hands-on test is not due this Sunday, but that's kind of where we are in the class. We did another set of labs, and we're ready for our next hands-on test. And so I'll get that open. Not due this Sunday, but you could definitely get a start and choose how far you want to work into it. Okay, so I'll stop the recording.